Hi. So I'm thinking of making a channel here where I deal a little bit about the challenge of chronic illness. I am gonna make it a little bit an introduction about who I am. So I'm Charlotte. I do live in Norway now, north in Norway, with my two dogs and my boyfriend. I've been dealing with chronic illness since I was about, of course it was about my whole life, but it started to get worse when I was around 14. And they couldn't really find out what was wrong with me. And it's just around the last year that they figured out it was, I got 3 diagnoses the last year, actually. So I've been doing this for 14 years. They've been looking for what's wrong with me, and they couldn't really figure it out. So the first thing they found out was that I had litlebit, which isn't the thing that affects me the most, but it's there, and it's definitely doing something about my body. Well, the second you can see that I do have tics, which have gotten a lot worse the last year. In the last 6 months, they've been much worse. So I very recently got the diagnosis of tourettes, and I also have lupus, or systematic lupus, or whatever you call it, lupus, the one you see at house. Yeah, so I do a lot of weird things with my face and with my hands, and I also do have a few verbal tics, which is going to be noticeable once in a while. They get a lot worse when I talk about them, and some days they're all very calm. I barely have any tics. I barely have any verbal tics. Like today I've been pretty calm, but they do seem to flow. I don't know what you're gonna call it. So when one of my illnesses is worse, the other one's usually calmer, and then they switch. So this also come with a lot of mental issues, like depression and anxiety and different stuff like that. So part of this chat, no, this is not a chat. Part of this videos is going to be about mental illness too, because that's part of what I'm dealing with. And I think it's very important thing to talk about. I don't think it's talked about enough. I don't think they should have it in the school a lot more, that people can understand it, and especially young ones. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I'm going to talk about. I started when I was around 14, when I got a lot of, it seemed like it was just the flu, but I had it for 2 weeks, and I figured out my blood counts was very low, and I also had some antibodies in my blood, but I couldn't really connect it to anything. So they've been looking for pretty much all the autoimmune diseases you can have, I think. So it's been a really long road to where I am today. I'm gotten kind of used to being the one that something's wrong with. And I don't know, I think I learned a lot about it, and I got a lot, I'm gonna talk a lot about the different issues that comes with it. Like, you feel like you're a burden, or that you don't, or you're lazy, or it's in your head and all stuff like that. Since I've been 14 years with undiagnosed, I've had a lot of doctors tell me it might not be something wrong with my body, but it's just in my head. So that's one of the issues with long-term illnesses. A lot of people is most interesting in my tics, because that's the visible one. And it's gonna be a lot about that too. Some days those are the most annoying and most visible. Yeah, so that's that. Probably gonna be a lot about my dogs too. I am a dog trainer, or I do have a degree in behavior psychology. Right now I do not work with dogs, but I am planning to do it later, doing courses and behavior, dogs with problem behavior. So that's going to be interesting. I want to do some, I do have 2 dogs. I have 2 small dogs right now. I have a Shih Tzu mix, that's Theo, and I also have Timber, who is a miniature dachshund, and he is the cuddly one, so he's pretty much on my lap all day. He's right here right now, but he's sleeping, so I'm not going to pick him up. I'm thinking I'm going to let him sleep right now because he's been very active today. And he's just a puppy, so he's only 5-6 months old now. Yeah, so I'm gonna do another one later that's more thought through. This is just an introduction, and I hope to do this more often. Bye!